This show is part of OnePlace, a daily network of focused briefings across the stories people follow most.
Welcome to our daily legal roundup. We are diving into the biggest courtroom developments and criminal justice updates from across the country to keep you informed on the cases making headlines today.
Blake Lively settles her harassment lawsuit against Justin Baldoni.
A subway manager avoids prison after trapping a child.
An autism therapy employee faces child cruelty charges.
NFL star Stephon Diggs begins his assault trial.
A Nevada woman is sentenced for a deadly crash.
An Oregon woman is convicted of killing her ex-husband.
An Oklahoma man receives life for murdering his wife.
Jurors hear a 911 call in a child's death.
Starting with Blake Lively. In a major development just days before their scheduled trial, actress Blake Lively and director Justin Baldoni have reached a settlement. This legal battle stemmed from the production of the film It Ends With Us, where Lively alleged she faced sexual harassment and subsequent retaliation for reporting the behavior. The lawsuit targeted Baldoni, several production companies, and even a crisis communications expert. While Baldoni had initially filed a countersuit, that was dismissed last year. Despite a judge dismissing most of Lively's allegations back in April, she had remained committed to taking the case to trial until this sudden agreement. The lead-up to the trial had already captured international attention, particularly after private text messages between Lively and her close friend Taylor Swift were made public during the discovery process.
The parties released a joint statement to Court TV expressing pride in the final film and its mission to raise awareness for domestic violence survivors. They acknowledged that the production process presented significant challenges and that Lively's concerns deserved to be heard. While the specific financial terms of the settlement remain confidential, the statement emphasized a shared commitment to maintaining professional, respectful workplaces free of impropriety. This resolution brings an end to a highly publicized conflict that threatened to overshadow the movie's message. The trial was set to begin on May 18, but now both sides say they hope to move forward constructively and in peace. It marks a quiet conclusion to a saga that had the entertainment industry watching closely for potential testimony regarding on-set dynamics and corporate accountability. Next up in Florida.
A Florida man named James Anthony Morris Jr. will avoid any additional prison time after pleading guilty to child abuse. Morris was the manager of a Subway restaurant in Jacksonville when he locked a 10-year-old girl in a back room. The incident occurred in July 2025, after the child accidentally walked across a floor Morris had just finished cleaning. Even though the girl's mother instructed her to apologize, Morris allegedly grabbed the child and forced her into a room, holding the door shut while the mother fought to get her out. During the 2 minutes the girl was trapped, she told police she was terrified and believed she was being kidnapped. Morris reportedly used that time to rant at the child, calling her parents trash and terrible people before the mother finally freed her.
Despite the initial charge of false imprisonment of a child under 13, Morris reached a plea deal for 1 count of child abuse. He was sentenced to just 2 days in jail, but because he received credit for time already served, he walked away with no further incarceration. His sentence also includes 3 years of probation and a strict order to stay away from the victim and her mother. Additionally, the court ordered Morris to undergo both mental health and substance abuse evaluations and to pay $769 in court fees. The outcome has sparked conversation regarding the proportionality of the punishment, as the time he spent in jail was essentially the same amount of time the young victim spent trapped in that back room during the original incident.
Now to Georgia. In Georgia, a former employee of an autism therapy center is facing serious charges after security footage allegedly captured her abusing a 5-year-old boy. Ania Brown, who worked at Circle City ABA, has been charged with first-degree cruelty to children. According to the arrest warrant, the video shows Brown stepping on the young victim while he was on the floor, digging her foot into his face and back to prevent him from standing up. The incident came to light after a complainant notified authorities, leading the Richmond County Sheriff's Office to review the facility's surveillance system. When questioned by police, Brown reportedly claimed she was simply using her foot to keep the child away from her to prevent him from causing her harm. This explanation stands in stark contrast to the center's public mission of providing a safe environment.
The website for Circle City ABA emphasizes that their therapists foster close connections with children to help them reach developmental goals in workspaces equipped with clean toys and modern facilities. However, the reality depicted in the police report has left the community shaken. Brown was booked into the Richmond County Jail, but has since been released on a $22,000 bond while she awaits her next court date. The center has not yet responded to requests for comment regarding Brown's current employment status or their internal safety protocols following the incident. This case highlights the critical importance of surveillance and oversight in facilities catering to vulnerable populations, as the footage played a central role in the decision to file criminal charges. The investigation remains active as prosecutors prepare their case for the upcoming proceedings. Moving to Massachusetts.
The trial for NFL star Stefon Diggs began this week in Massachusetts, with the prosecution and defense offering wildly different accounts of an alleged assault. Diggs is facing charges of felony strangulation and misdemeanor assault involving a woman who worked as his private chef, Jamila Adams. The prosecutor told the jury that Diggs entered Adams' bedroom after a heated text exchange, slapped her and put her in a headlock before throwing her onto a bed. Adams took the stand as the first witness, testifying that Diggs appeared very angry and intended to hurt her. She described a scene where she tried to block his strikes while he allegedly used his arm to restrain her. The prosecution argues that the physical evidence and testimony will prove that the athlete's frustration boiled over into a violent physical confrontation in his home.
In contrast, the defense attorney for Diggs told the jury that the entire incident was fabricated by a disgruntled employee. He claimed that Adams was quietly seething because she had been left off a guest list for a birthday trip to Miami, following a feud with one of Diggs's business partners. The defense argues that no assault ever took place, and that Adams is simply attempting to extort money from the NFL star. They pointed to alleged requests for payments upwards of $19,000 made after the criminal complaint was filed. As the trial continues, the jury will have to weigh the credibility of the chef's detailed testimony against the defense's narrative of a calculated revenge plot. With felony charges on the line, the outcome of this case could have significant implications for Diggs' career and personal reputation.
Next to Las Vegas. A tragic case from the Las Vegas Strip has finally reached a conclusion with the sentencing of Lakeisha Holloway, now known as Paris Morton. In 2015, Morton drove her car into a crowd of pedestrians, injuring dozens and killing Jessica Valenzuela, a mother of 3 who was visiting the city for an anniversary trip. During the emotional sentencing hearing, Valenzuela's daughters, who were just 8 and 9 at the time of the crash, spoke about the devastating impact of losing their mother. One daughter recalled asking her father where her mommy was when he returned home alone, while the other shared the pain of never getting to say a final goodbye. Morton was sentenced to 18 years in prison after pleading guilty to second-degree murder and battery with use of a deadly weapon, ending a legal process that lasted over a decade.
The case was delayed for years due to multiple mental health evaluations and changes in legal representation. Morton was found incompetent to stand trial in 2020, but was later deemed fit after treatment at a state psychiatric facility. At the time of the crash, she was homeless and living in her car with her own 3-year-old daughter. Prosecutors described a mental breakdown that led her to veer onto the sidewalk, though Morton herself could not fully explain her actions beyond remembering bodies hitting her windshield. At the hearing, a sobbing Morton apologized to the victims, acknowledging their pain and the long wait for justice. The judge's sentence reflects the severity of the incident while considering the complex mental health history involved. For the Valenzuela family, the conclusion of the criminal case provides a sense of closure after 11 years of mourning. Shifting to Oregon.
In Oregon, Raina Gabriella Jackson has been sentenced to life in prison for the 2021 murder of her ex-husband, Dr. Craig Jackson. Prosecutors argued that Raina was consumed by jealousy after seeing her ex-husband building a new life with another woman and their daughter. On the night of the murder, Raina and 2 accomplices broke into the victim's home while he and his new wife were sleeping. The new wife managed to hide under the bed and heard the fatal struggle and gunshots. When police arrived, they found Dr. Jackson dead from multiple gunshot wounds. Investigators quickly focused on Raina after finding a map of the victim's home in her car and a forged $40,000 check. They also noted that she had a fire burning so hot in her fireplace that all her windows were open, suggesting an attempt to destroy evidence.
The couple's history was marked by conflict following their 2016 divorce, where a judge had awarded full custody of their daughter to the father. Raina had previously been caught breaking a window at his home after seeing him with another woman, showcasing a pattern of escalating behavior. During the trial, witnesses testified that Raina showed almost no emotion when informed of her ex-husband's death. The jury ultimately convicted her of second-degree murder after a 3-week trial that detailed her meticulous planning and the brutal nature of the attack. She must serve at least 25 years before becoming eligible for parole. This sentence brings an end to a case that shocked the North Bend community, highlighting the tragic consequences of domestic obsession and the lengths to which the defendant went to disrupt her former partner's happiness and stability.
Now to Oklahoma. An Oklahoma man, Clifton Wayne Hampton, has been sentenced to life in prison for the strangulation murder of his wife Christina. The killing occurred just days before their 13th wedding anniversary, after Christina told him she wanted a divorce and called him pathetic. Hampton initially tried to cover up the crime, bringing his wife's body to a hospital wrapped in a mattress pad and offering a story that investigators quickly realized was false. Police noted visible injuries on Christina's throat and knees that were inconsistent with her husband's claims. During the sentencing, Christina's mother delivered a powerful impact statement, expressing her disbelief that the man who promised to protect her daughter would ultimately be the one to take her life. Hampton pleaded guilty to first-degree murder, which carries a mandatory minimum of 45 years under Oklahoma law for a life term.
Because of the nature of the crime, Hampton is required to serve at least 85% of his sentence before he can even be considered for parole. This means the 51-year-old will be nearly 90 years old before he has any chance of release, effectively ensuring he spends the rest of his life behind bars. The judge's decision to impose the life sentence followed a harrowing account of the final hours of the victim's life, which involved a prolonged argument that turned deadly. The sheriff noted that the inconsistencies in Hampton's story were the key to breaking the case open early in the investigation. This tragic outcome serves as a somber reminder of the dangers of domestic violence during marital separations. The family of Christina Hampton expressed a mix of grief and relief that the legal process has finally held her killer accountable. Finally, in Wisconsin.
In a Wisconsin courtroom, jurors listened to a chilling 911 call made by Josie Dykman, who is charged with the intentional homicide of her boyfriend's 6-year-old son, Alexavier Pedron. In the recording, Dykman claims she found the boy unresponsive on the floor after he supposedly got into a bag of medications. However, the responding officer testified that when he arrived, the child was actually on the bed, not the floor. The officer also described a white frothy substance and a black substance coming from the child's mouth during CPR. While an empty bottle of hydrocodone was found nearby and Xanax was detected in the boy's system, the medical examiner determined the actual cause of death was blunt force trauma. The child suffered severe internal injuries, including a torn liver and brain swelling, which are inconsistent with a simple drug overdose.
The prosecution also introduced a recording where Dykman allegedly told her boyfriend she felt free after the child's death, suggesting a motive of resentment toward the boy. Dykman's defense team has denied all allegations of abuse, instead pointing the finger at the child's father, Derek Pedron. They suggested in their opening statements that he was the one responsible for the physical injuries. However, the father testified that he would never hurt his children, and last saw his son alive and well the night before the tragedy. As the trial moves forward, the jury will have to reconcile the medical evidence of physical trauma with Dykman's claims of an accidental poisoning. The case has drawn significant attention in La Crosse County, as the community seeks answers for the brutal death of a young child who was supposed to be in safe hands.
That wraps up our legal briefing for today. Thank you for joining us as we track these developing stories. Be sure to follow the show for your next daily update on the latest news.